They take an oath before Michelangelo's Last Judgment fresco, swearing to be guided not by opinion, but by the Holy Spirit. And then, silence. No one knows what happens next. The ballots are handwritten. After each round of voting, they are collected, counted, and then burned. If no pope is chosen, chemicals are added to produce black smoke, signaling to the world that the throne remains empty. But if white smoke rises, it means something has shifted. Heaven has moved. And the church has a new shepherd. The sight of white smoke billowing from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel has become one of the most iconic images in all of religious history. It's a moment that stops millions in their tracks, believers and skeptics alike, as the world collectively holds its breath. Habemus papam, they await to hear, we have a pope. But that moment doesn't happen instantly. After the white smoke rises, signaling that a cardinal has received the required 2/3 majority vote, a final ritual unfolds in secrecy, one that carries both symbolic weight and psychological gravity. The elected cardinal is asked a solemn question. Do you accept your election as the Supreme Pontiff? He can say no, and some have. But if he accepts, a second question follows. By what name shall you be called? It's not just a matter of personal preference, it's a spiritual declaration. The chosen name often reflects the legacy the new pope intends to carry, the values he seeks to embody. John Paul, Benedict, Francis. Each name reshapes the church's direction in ways far deeper than most understand. After this moment, the new pope is led into the Room of Tears, a small chamber beside the Sistine Chapel where he's clothed in papal vestments prepared in 3 sizes: small, medium, large, because no one knows in advance who will be chosen. It's called the Room of Tears because many new popes weep there. The weight of the role, the awareness of what lies ahead, is overwhelming, and only once he is dressed, composed, and ready does he emerge. The cardinal protodeacon steps onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica and announces to the crowd, Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum, habemus papam. I announce to you a great joy. We have a pope. And then the new pope appears, not just as a man in white, but as the new spiritual father of over 1 billion souls. But what many don't realize is that while the world cheers, the real work is just beginning, because behind the applause, the rituals, the traditions, stands a human being now tasked with carrying a crown no man can truly hold alone. The world sees a wave from the balcony, a soft blessing, and perhaps even a smile. But what few realize is that the newly elected pope in that very moment steps into a position of both immense power and unbearable solitude. He is now the Bishop of Rome, the successor of St. Peter, the spiritual leader of over 1 billion Catholics, and a figure whose words can shake governments, move nations, and redefine centuries of tradition. Yet he is still a man. Behind the white robes and ancient symbols beats a human heart that must now shoulder a divine expectation. The Pope becomes a living paradox. He is called Holy Father, yet knows his own flaws intimately. He is declared infallible in matters of doctrine, yet must constantly seek wisdom and counsel. He is revered by millions, yet often walks alone. And as he takes his first steps into the apostolic palace, the doors close and the weight of silence begins. The Pope's daily life is structured, yes, but it is also guarded, constrained, and marked by a profound internal tension. He meets heads of state, but also confesses his sins. He writes encyclicals that shape theology, yet grieves in private for a world torn by division. And all of this began with a death. A knock on the forehead, the breaking of a ring, a plume of smoke. These aren't just rituals. They are markers in the spiritual story of humanity, a reminder that even the most powerful spiritual role begins and ends in fragility. From dust he came, and to dust he returns. Yet through that dust, the Church believes God still speaks. And perhaps the most remarkable mystery of all is this: no matter how many popes have died, or how flawed they've been, or how short or long their reigns may last, the voice of the Church has never gone silent. Not because of the man, but because of the mission. They hit the Pope's forehead with a silver hammer, and no one talks about it. When a Pope dies, the Camerlengo strikes his forehead 3 times and calls his name, not as a ritual of violence, but to confirm the end of a spiritual era. Comment, from dust he returns. Subscribe and share this truth. If you scroll without reacting, you're silencing a mystery the world forgot. What really happens when a pope dies? Most people assume it's a simple announcement, a few days of mourning and a new election. But the truth is far stranger and deeply symbolic. The death of a pope isn't just the end of a life. It's the unraveling of an entire spiritual government, a moment that triggers centuries-old rituals that few ever see, but which hold profound meaning within the walls of the Vatican. And if I told you that one of the first things they do is strike his forehead 3 times with a silver hammer while calling his name out loud, would you still think it's just a ceremony? Because what happens after the Pope dies isn't casual, it's deliberate, sacred, and veiled in mystery. The world sees the headlines, but behind closed doors, a secret protocol begins. A ritual that determines not just the end of an era, but the preparation for the soul's return to eternity. And this video will reveal every detail, so if you're watching this and haven't yet commented, "He returns to dust," what are you waiting for? Type it now, subscribe, and share this video, because most people don't know what really happens when the most powerful religious figure on earth takes his final breath. Stay until the end, because what you're about to learn will change how you see power, legacy, and death itself. The story begins not with silence, but with a knock. The moment a pope is presumed dead, the Vatican doesn't simply call a doctor. They summon the Camerlengo, the Chamberlain of the Holy Roman Church, a cardinal whose role only becomes active when the Pope's heart stops beating. And here's where the mystery deepens. The Camerlengo approaches the Pope's body and, according to tradition, performs a ritual that most have only heard in whispers. He takes a small silver hammer, lightly taps the Pope's forehead 3 times, and calls him by his baptismal name. Not Holy Father, not Your Holiness, but his birth name, Karol Wojtyła. Karol Wojtyła. Karol Wojtyła. No response. The silence confirms what the Church already fears. The Pope is gone, and only then is he officially declared dead. But why this bizarre act? The hammer is not meant to hurt. It symbolizes finality. It echoes an ancient tradition where kings were confirmed dead with a last call to duty. The Pope is no mere political figure. He's believed to be the vicar of Christ on earth, and the Church doesn't take his departure lightly. But the ritual doesn't end there. Immediately after, the Camerlengo removes the fisherman's ring, a gold ring worn by the Pope that bears his name and symbolizes his spiritual authority. He crushes it publicly with that same silver hammer. Why? To ensure that no documents, no decrees, no letters can be forged in his name after death. Because while the Pope may be gone, the power he held must be fully sealed. This act doesn't just protect the Church, it marks the beginning of an interregnum, a period of spiritual vacancy, where the Church is leaderless, vulnerable, and waiting. And it's in that silence, in that uncertainty, where the next mystery begins to unfold. Because now, the world waits for smoke. And what that smoke means could determine the soul of 1 billion people. With the Pope officially declared dead and the fisherman's ring destroyed, the Vatican enters a period known as sede vacante, Latin for the seat being vacant. The majestic throne of St. Peter is empty, and with it, A spiritual vacuum emerges. No new doctrines can be declared, no bishops can be appointed. The Church pauses not in weakness, but in reverence. Yet behind the marble columns and velvet curtains of the Apostolic Palace, a machine of ancient precision begins to move. The Camerlengo now assumes temporary governance over the Vatican, but only in administrative matters. He cannot lead. Mass as the Pope, he cannot change doctrine. He is simply the guardian of the Church's structure until the white smoke rises, and here's where curiosity meets secrecy. While the world mourns, preparations begin for one of the most mysterious elections on earth, the papal conclave. No cameras are allowed, no phones. The cardinals, those eligible to vote, are sworn to absolute secrecy under threat of excommunication. The doors of the Sistine Chapel are locked, the windows sealed. Outside communication is cut. Why such extremes? Because the Church believes the selection of a new pope isn't just political, it's divine. Each cardinal enters carrying the weight of centuries. Their vote is not just a choice, it is a prayer, an act of discernment.